Welcome to The Game Changer with Dr. Sharalyn, where purpose meets performance and leaders are built to shift legacies. I'm Dr. Sharalyn Payne, executive strategist, speaker, and the secret weapon behind leaders who drive transformation at the highest levels. Each episode delivers bold truths, power skills, and real-world strategies to help you lead with precision, show up with presence, and build the kind of influence that outlasts trends. This is the space where high-impact decisions are born, where influence is intentional, and where the bold don't just lead, they change the game. So if you're ready to rise, ready to lead, and ready to create the kind of impact that moves markets, missions, and minds, you're in the right place. You don't lead like everyone else, so your resources shouldn't look like everyone else's. Welcome to the Game Changers Leadership Collection for maximizing performance, potential, and profitability. This leadership collection features best practices, insights, and frameworks from my executive level work with high impact leaders across industries. It's designed to equip you with the clarity, tools, and strategic language needed to lead with credibility under pressure. Let's be clear. In high stakes rooms, executive presence isn't optional. It's mission critical. That's why I created the Executive Briefing Companion, your strategic script for navigating leadership's most defining moments. Whether you're in the boardroom, in front of the C-suite, or facing complex stakeholder dynamics, this tool helps you rise above the noise and lead with clarity, courage, and command. At its core is the 9 executive questions framework, a high-impact structure that ensures your message cuts through uncertainty, aligns your audience, and positions you as the credible voice in the room. Think of this as your strategic battle card, the leadership intelligence you carry into the room that tests you most. Also included is the language of influence, your cheat sheet for persuasive, purposeful communication. These phrases and framing techniques are drawn from high-stakes boardrooms, top-tier executive coaching, and transformational leadership practices. Use this tool to strengthen your executive presence, navigate tension with calm authority, drive clarity, buy-in, and high-stakes alignment, and speak with power without overpowering. You'll also get a preview of the 10 daily power skills, the high-performance behaviors that fuel the world's most impactful leaders, creatives, activists, entrepreneurs, and change makers. These are not soft skills. They are strategic habits that create undeniable outcomes. You'll be able to self-assess with the high impact leadership scorecard, find your edge, close your gaps, activate your next level. And to ground your leadership in inspiration and intention, you'll receive the Power of One poster, a visual reminder that one decision, one conversation, or one action can shift everything. Finally, I'm giving you access to my mini course, 7 leadership blind spots that are secretly sabotaging your culture and success, and how to eliminate them for good. Every tool in this collection is designed to elevate how you think, speak, and lead, because game changers don't follow trends, they set standards. Download the Game Changers Leadership Collection now. It's free, it's powerful, and it's built for leaders like you. I'm Dr. Sharalyn Payne, and this is your Leadership Edge. Today, we're talking about protecting the asset, boundaries that build your power. Powerful leaders don't burn out because they're weak. They burn out because they're unprotected, not from the outside, but from within. We're talking about the kind of boundaries that don't just protect your peace, they preserve your power. This is a direct message to every high impact, high capacity leader who's been bleeding influence while calling it committed to the work they do. You've been applauded for your availability, praised for your sacrifice, rewarded for being the most dependable person in the room. But here's the truth that no one tells you. Availability without boundaries is actually self-betrayal in disguise. And if you're the asset, then protecting your time, energy, identity, and assignment is not a suggestion. It's actually a strategic imperative. Because if you don't protect your power, mediocrity will. Mediocrity doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you just say yes. Just keep the peace. Don't rock the boat until your greatness becomes optional and your vision has been compromised. So today, let's get honest, let's get strategic, and let's get free. Let's talk about the boundaries that build your power. Let's talk about what actually happens when we don't have boundaries. Let's dive into the cost of compromise. Deloitte reports that 77% of professionals have experienced burnout. And a lack of boundaries is one of the top drivers. But what's deeper than burnout is this: it's the slow erosion of your brilliance. The erosion happens every time you say yes when your spirit says no, when you agree to a meeting that drains you, when you accept disrespect to maintain the peace, when you give away your intellectual property to someone else for free, when you shrink to avoid intimidating others. These aren't just bad habits, they're actually power leaks. And power leaks always leads to a decay in leadership every single time. So now that we understand the cost, let's name the subtle, almost invisible ways our power gets drained. These are the boundary violations that we don't talk about enough. So here are 7 power draining violations I'm going to present you with. And I want you to ask yourself this question: how many have I actually given into? Power draining violation number 1, the dignity drift. This is when you allow someone to talk to you, what I call any kind of way, and you say nothing. Now, I know that for some of us, we may need to say nothing to preserve the energy, right? To maintain our level of professionalism, to not allow things to go south. And so there are times when it's best that we just remain silent. But here's the thing: we must confront those who believe they have the right to disrespect us. Because if we don't, we're disrespecting ourselves. I'll never forget the time that I was working with this woman, and we were part of this leadership team. And for whatever reason, she thought that she could just talk to me any kind of way. And I don't know what I was thinking one day, but I just said something to her. And she asked me, "Who are you getting snarky with?" And I had to tell her, "Well, you, I would assume, because it's only 2 of us having a conversation. But here's what I've observed, and here's my expectation. You see, we can have adult workplace conversations without being disrespectful. And I will no longer tolerate your disrespect. I've given you a pass a couple of times, but what I'm noticing is a pattern of behavior where you're becoming way too comfortable with this. And please forgive me for not addressing this earlier. But let me serve you notice that this is the very last time that you will disrespect or dishonor me." And she was taken aback, but guess what? It never happened again. It never happened again to the level in which she had been addressing me. Now, she still would have her little comments here and there, but she wasn't talking to me any kind of way. She was just being who she was. And when I felt like I wanted to address it or I needed to address it, I would. But it set a standard of what I expected from her and others that we worked with. And so I want to encourage you to do what I should have done before, which is to address it head on and in the very beginning. That we don't allow anyone to talk to us any kind of way without saying something, without speaking up for ourselves. Power draining violation number 2 is performative yeses. We've all been in the room where someone says, and to so-and-so's point, and to Sue's point, and to Kim's point, and to Beverly's point, and to Dave's point. Those are the performative yeses. You're agreeing just to look agreeable, and you really don't agree at all. Remain true to yourself and your leadership by not agreeing when you don't agree. It's very simple. Let's not overcomplicate this. And so we're no longer having performative yeses or giving the performative yeses. We're no longer agreeing just to look agreeable. We're standing in our power. Do we agree? If so, great. And do we not agree? But we're no longer saying yes when we really want to say no. Power draining violation number 3, truth suppression. Solacing your values to be included or to have a seat at the table. We've all seen it, where people compromise who they are, they compromise what they believe in, they're silent on the things that truly matter to them just to have a seat at the table or to be part of the cool kids club. And as leaders, we don't do this. We understand that we need to have a voice and our voice needs to be at the table and we need to have representation. Absolutely. But people are looking at you. They want to know what you stand for, who you are, what you're about. And so we're no longer silencing our values to be included. If you don't want to include me because I stand for truth or I stand for my values, that's okay. And we have to be okay with not being included. Because here's the thing, when you stand in your power, you force other people to think about who they are and who you are, how you show up and how they show up. And that's the power of not going alone just to get along. That's the power of knowing your values and operating from a place of these are my core values, and this is what I'm about, and this is what I do. Power draining violation number 4, strategic dimming. Oh my gosh. Lowering your brilliance so others feel safe. I can tell you, I've worked with so many people. Some are extremely sharp. And it is so disheartening when we see people who are sharp, who are brilliant, who are geniuses in their own right, but they dim their light so that someone else can feel powerful, so that someone else can get the attention. We're not doing that. We're showing up in the fullness of who we are and what we bring to the table. And I've done this myself. I've dimmed my light working with insecure leaders, especially in the boardroom and the C-suite, in the leadership teams, who refuse to grow, who refuse to do the work, who refuse to investigate, who refuse to assess, but who wanted to silence me or downplay my accomplishments, my voice, what I brought to the table, so that they could look good. And for a moment, I gave into that at this one company that I work with until I decided to rise in power and that I was no longer going to do that. That whatever happened, happened. But I was no longer going to diminish who I was to make you or anyone else feel good. And once I did that, and once I began to take back my power, Doors began to open. People began to see me differently. When I began to recognize what in the world is happening to me, there's a leak going on. These people are draining me, and I am giving into it and I'm allowing it. And it wasn't until I made the decision that I was going to stop allowing this to take from me, that I was going to add value, because that was my core value. That's what I did. That things began to shift. Power draining violation number 5, intellectual surrender. Sharing everything you know with people who haven't earned access. Have you ever done this? Where you want to be a helper, someone asks you something, and so you give them the information, you willingly share because you're not jealous, you're not intimidated, you want to help, you want to see the team win. And so you just give your information, and then people adopt it or present it as their own. And we wonder what happened. Why are they doing that? We didn't protect the asset. We didn't establish the boundary. We didn't make them earn it. And it's not about what we hear in the media today when we're talking about organizations in which people want to protect their information and they don't want to share their intellectual property, or they don't want to share what they know, right? Because of fear. It's not that. This is totally different. This is about understanding that you bring value and that you will willingly help and you will willingly give, but you can't give away your secret sauce. You can't give away what makes you you. You can't give away what makes you a game changer, what allows you to be ultra influential. So we have to establish the boundary in what I can share, how I can share it, when I can share it, and the ways in which I can share. I remember working for someone or working with someone years ago, a manager. She was pretty, I would say, elementary in her leadership capabilities. And in my desire to help her, I would give her information. I would give her my intellectual property. I would share so much with her. But there was a lack of appreciation and value. There was a lack of trust. And what I saw was that she would present it as if it was from her or from the team, but she would never say Sharalyn. And what I learned from that was that I established this. And with that, I also created an over-reliance on me as well. And people never really knew my full capabilities until they worked with me one-on-one. And then they were able to see. But she would want to hide me. Why? Because she didn't want me to dim her light, and she didn't want people to find out who was really creating the magic behind the scenes. So we got to be very careful of that. Power draining violation number 6, time hijack. Letting people's urgency control your calendar. We've all been in those organizations or work with those people who everything is urgent. We need this right now. They haven't planned. They haven't done what they were supposed to do. They've been out having a ball, having fun, away from the work, not engaged in the work. They haven't done what they're supposed to do for the role in which they're in. And now it's an emergency. And it becomes your problem. And they want you to clear your calendar, compromise what you're working on to come in and save the day for them. And what I've had to learn, and I've coached other leaders on, is that sometimes, especially as women, We just cannot put on our Wonder Woman bands. Sometimes Superman can't find his cape. We can't save everyone. Power draining violation number 7 is the emotional overdraft. Pouring into others when your tank is empty and calling it leadership. We've all been there, or someone we love, care about, or respect. Someone perhaps that we're mentoring. They call us and they need us. And we want to be there. We want to serve. We want to help. And so when they ask us the question, do you have a minute? We say yes. And we build them up. We pick them up. We wipe away the tears. We give them the answers. We're there to save the day. When reality is we're hurting, we're bleeding, we're exhausted, we're tired, we're frustrated. We have a need as well. Our tank is empty, but yet we're still serving, yet we're still working. And sometimes we just need to say no. Sometimes we need to say, yes, I can, but not right now. And we'll talk about that in a little bit later. So our power boundary tip. If you're constantly exhausted, overwhelmed, or resentful, it's probably not your workload. Now, it could be, but it's probably a lack of boundaries. You're saying yes when you should be saying no. And I've had to learn this the hard way. As a person who loves to help, who loves to empower, who loves to serve, who loves strategy, loves giving advice. I'm a builder. I get excited about transformation. But I've had to realize I cannot always say yes. I cannot always pour from an empty cup. That the best thing I can do is to take a break. The best thing I can do is to say no. The best thing I can do is to establish boundaries. The best thing I can do is to stay focused on my mission, my vision, my purpose, my calling. So let me pause and bring this home with a real life moment. A time when I had to decide whether I was going to protect the asset or please the people. A few years ago, I was invited to be part of a high-level strategic initiative. It looked like a dream opportunity. It provided me with visibility, influence, and access. And as I was reviewing it and trying to determine, should I say yes? Should I say no? Is this the right time? Is this the right opportunity? What are the wins? What are the opportunities of this? Will I grow? Will this stretch me? And as I was going through all of that, something in my spirit clearly said, this is not going to turn out the way you envision. And despite that, I moved forward. They needed my help. It was going to fall apart. It could be an opportunity. It was something that I had created and built. So I certainly didn't want my legacy, my baby, to fall apart. What was I going to do? So I said yes. And ultimately, I'll be honest, I forgot at some point that I was the asset. And as a result of that, my peace, my career, the reputation that I had established were all in jeopardy. Within 6 months, I wanted completely out of that project. If I'm being honest, probably within 3 months. I was traveling nonstop, away from my family, away from my friends, working around the clock. I was exhausted. and I wasn't in the rooms that I knew that I needed to be in. So that meant that I was relying on my manager to speak up for me. I was relying on her to be the voice to tell our executive leadership team what was actually happening. And she wasn't really close enough to the work to really know. She wasn't really a great salesperson to truly sell me. She didn't have a great reputation with them for them to believe in what she said. And she was making some other decisions that was compromising our department. So I learned a very important lesson. Number one, listen to my spirit. But number two, stay focused on the ultimate vision. Sometimes your no doesn't block your blessing. It can actually protect it. It can protect your goals. It can protect your calling. It can protect who you are, your health, what you're about, your family, the bigger things in life that are much more important than this particular decision or this moment. Now that we've seen the pattern, let's move into the solution. I want to teach you a practical framework that I use and that you can start using today to protect your power. It's called the Protect the Asset Framework. Not very fancy, but you'll get the picture. So let's walk through the Protect the Asset Framework, a 5-step practice to establish boundaries that build power. A, audit your power leaks. Where's your power slipping? This could be your time, your clarity, or your confidence. S, set your standards. What are your non-negotiables? What will you no longer tolerate or explain? I'm going to stop right here for that one because this is one of my favorites. And I love this one because when you start to set your standards and really hold to your standards, you'll find that the people around you have a lot of comments about how you're changing. And they're not always favorable because you're no longer doing what serves them because they have a plan for you. And they know what they want you to do and who they need you to be. So when you're setting your standards, be very aware of what's coming in from the people who are closest to you. So again, S is setting your standards. What are your non-negotiables? What will you no longer tolerate or explain? A was audit your power leaks. Where is your power slipping, your time, your clarity, or your confidence? The second S is say it early. Boundaries work best when set before they're violated. Boundaries work best when set before they're violated. What do I mean by that? Set your boundaries early. Communicate your boundaries once you've set them. And you say it early. So you express your clear boundaries to the people who are around you. So there are no ifs, ands, or buts about what it is that you're saying. So I want you to establish your guardrails before they're needed and express those to the people who you work with, the people who are depending upon you, the people you show up for, and the people who could potentially be impacted by the boundaries that you set. And then E, enforce your boundaries without apology. Enforce your boundaries without apology. If you can't enforce it, you haven't truly set it. And this is the thing. We set the boundaries, we communicate the boundaries, but there are times when you're challenged with enforcing your boundaries, or you enforce your boundaries, but you apologize. I want you to begin to lead, Now, leading doesn't mean that you never apologize, but I just want you to get comfortable with establishing the expectation, setting the expectation, communicating the expectation, and holding to that without the need to apologize because of the boundaries that have been set. So if you can't enforce it, you haven't truly set it. And then T, trade mediocrity for mastery. Every yes to mediocrity is a no to excellence and the perfection of your gift. I'm going to say that one more time. T, trade mediocrity for mastery. When you have no boundaries, when you're all over the place, you're accepting and inviting mediocrity instead of mastery. Because when you establish those boundaries, you can get really, really good at some things. So every yes to mediocrity is a no to excellence. And it's a no to the perfection and the perfecting of your gift. So you want to be excellent. You want to be great. You want to master some things. Be at mastery level, for example, with communication. Be at mastery level with leading and growing people. Begin to say no to some things. So that's the protect the asset framework. And we just spelled out asset. Power isn't about what you think. It's about what you say. So now we're going to talk language. I'm going to give you some leadership phrases you can start using to enforce your boundaries with clarity and grace. Why is this important? I truly believe that you do not have to be rude to be clear. Never. You can be very clear with the people you work with the people you lead, with the people in your family, with your closest friends without being rude. So I'm going to give you some power phrases that you can begin using today. And I actually have a few for you. Ready? Okay, first up, that doesn't align with my current priorities. That doesn't align with my current priorities. Who can argue with your alignment? We all seek alignment, right? We all want to be aligned. That doesn't align with my current priorities. Second, I'm not available, but I can recommend someone else who might be. I love that one because, for some people who just love to help, right, and just cannot say no, you're giving them an alternative and pointing them in the right direction possibly. And you're being seen as a resource. Number 3, I'll need to decline so I can honor my commitments. Pretty good, right? I'll need to decline so I can honor my commitments. We all want to honor our commitments. Or we should all want to honor our commitments. Here's one that a couple that I met years ago, I love this, and they do this with each other, and especially when people ask them to do something. I don't say yes on the spot. Give me 24 hours to decide. Now, there are going to be some times where you may need to give a yes on the spot. And you can just say at that time, if that's you, and I've heard some other people say this, if that's the case, then my answer is always no. If I have to decide right now, I don't give in to pressure. So the answer is always no, right? That's you establishing your boundaries. That's you being very clear on your values. And then the last one, let me check my schedule and my strategy calendar and get back with you. And I love that one. That is actually one of my favorite ones because I'm checking my schedule. My schedule may say yes, but my strategy calendar may say no. And you may say, what's the difference? Well, your calendar could be, or your schedule could just be what you have to do, what you have blocked out, what you're committed to doing. But your strategy calendar could demand that, well, I don't necessarily have this. I really need to be doing this. And this is really not in alignment with my strategy, with my vision. And so I may have to say no. And that gives you a clear way to be able to circle back and say, yes, it's in alignment. Yes, I've checked both. Or no, I haven't yet. Check one, but I haven't checked the other one. And as soon as I do, I'll be able to get back with you. Or It could be, I've checked both and it's not a good time for me right now, but please circle back later. Every yes is a deduction from your time bank. So I want you to protect your balance. Every yes is a deduction, it's a withdrawal, not a deposit from your bank. So protect your balance. Now, here's the thing, even when we have language, there's a deeper cultural and psychological issue we must confront. And that's what I call accommodated mediocrity. So let's go deeper. Have you heard of this one before? Accommodated mediocrity. Let's call it what it is. It's the silent saboteur in most leadership environments. We tolerate average conversations. You've been in those meetings yourself. I've been in them. I know you have too. We accept low vibration energy. We let meetings waste hours without clear outcomes. Why? It's because we're afraid to offend the leader. We don't want to push the boundary with someone who could be important. Maybe we believe we don't really have the power to say anything. It's not our meeting. It could be any number of reasons, right? But every time you accommodate mediocrity, you betray your mission. Boundaries aren't about pushing people out. They're about pulling excellence back in. Now I want to shift from teaching to transformation. This is where it becomes deeply personal. I want you to grab your journal. I want you to quiet your mind, and I want you to reflect with me. Where in your career or your personal life are you compromising what you know to be true? Where are you calling it leadership, but it's actually exhaustion? What is one boundary you need to clarify this week? And with whom? Now I want you to write this down. I protect my power because my calling depends on it. I want you to say this out loud every single day this week. I protect my power because my calling depends on it. I'm going to say it one more time because even I need to hear it. I protect my power because my calling depends on it. I protect my power because my calling depends on it. I protect my power because my calling depends on it. Let's bring it all together. After everything we've unpacked today, I want to leave you with this closing declaration, because protecting the asset starts with you deciding that you really are worth protecting. You were not called to be convenient. You were not designed to be accessible to dysfunction. You were born to build, lead, influence, and transform. But transformation can't happen where boundaries don't exist. So here's what I need you to remember. You're the asset. You really are the asset. And assets, they're never left unguarded. Not in banks, not in war, not in leadership, and not in this next season of your life. Protect your mind. Protect your calendar. Protect your voice. Protect your peace. Protect your leadership. Protect your family. Protect your health. Because the world doesn't just need your leadership, it needs your whole protected and powerful self. If this episode challenged you, I want you to share it with a leader you respect. Tag me, Dr. Sharalyn, and let's keep the conversation going. Visit smpistrategies.com for more tools to protect your power and lead at the highest level. You're not just a leader, you're the asset, and it's time you acted like it. Thank you for joining me on The Game Changer with Dr. Sharalyn, where we don't follow trends, we set them, and we don't just lead teams, we shift legacies. If today's message challenged, stretched, or inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, tag it, lead through it, because real leaders don't just consume wisdom, they multiply it. Want to go deeper? Subscribe to the Ultra Influential newsletter for exclusive tools, behind-the-scenes strategy, and weekly mindset shifts for the leader ready to move nations, markets, and minds. Visit www.smpistrategies.com or send a note to leadership@smpistrategies.com. And if you're ready for next level coaching or consulting that positions you as the right leader at the right time in the right place, let's talk. This is what we do, and we do it with precision, power, and purpose. Remember, change isn't just something you lead, it's something you become. Stay bold, stay brilliant, stay a game changer.